The streets of Burkina Faso pulsed with their usual rhythm that afternoon. Vendors balanced baskets of mangoes and peanuts on their heads, cyclists weaved between cars, and children darted across the road with carefree laughter that only youth could carry. The air was filled with the aroma of roasted corn and grilled meat, mingling with the faint dust that always rose when the wind stirred. Life was ordinary until it wasn't. It happened in the span of a heartbeat. A child, no older than 7, dashed after a rolling ball that had escaped from his friends. His small legs carried him into the road, his laughter still bubbling in his throat, and then tires screeched, a horn blared, and a car swerved too late. The sound was sickening. A thud, a cry, the world freezing in place. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A woman screamed, "My son! My son!" She pushed past stunned onlookers, collapsing to her knees beside the boy's small, motionless body. Blood seeped into the dust beneath his head, staining it a deep, terrifying red. The driver stumbled out of his vehicle, pale and trembling, words tumbling out in panicked French. Je n'ai pas vu! I didn't see him! But his protests were drowned by the cries of the mother, clutching her child and rocking back and forth. The crowd gathered but did not act. Some covered their mouths, others whispered prayers, but no one stepped forward. Fear, confusion, and helplessness rooted them to the ground. And then the unmistakable rumble of engines filled the air. A convoy appeared at the far end of the street, black SUVs, soldiers at alert, flags fluttering on hoods. Heads turned, whispers rippled through the gathering. "It's him, the captain, Ibrahim Traoré." The convoy was expected to pass, as it often did on its way to official duties. But when the lead vehicle drew near, Captain Ibrahim Traoré looked out his window and saw the scene, the crowd, the weeping mother, the child lying broken in the road. "Stop the car," he ordered. The driver hesitated, surprised. "Excellency, the schedule..." "Stop the car." The convoy screeched to a halt. Soldiers tensed, scanning rooftops and alleys, suspecting danger. But Ibrahim opened the door and stepped out without fear. His boots crunched against the gravel, his green beret shading his eyes as he strode toward the crowd. People parted instinctively, silence falling over them. This was not the president they saw at parades or on television. This was the man himself, walking into the dust, his gaze fixed on the injured child. The mother looked up, tears streaking her face, disbelief mixing with despair. "Please, please help him," she cried, her voice raw. Ibrahim knelt beside the boy. His hands were steady as he checked the child's pulse, his ear lowering to the shallow rise and fall of the boy's chest. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The crowd held its breath. Then Ibrahim looked at the mother. His voice was calm but resolute. "He is alive. He will not die here, not while I stand." With deliberate care, he slid his arms beneath the boy and lifted him. The crowd gasped as the leader of the nation cradled the injured child against his chest, his uniform already staining with blood. "Clear the road," Ibrahim commanded. His soldiers obeyed instantly, waving back the cars and making way for the convoy. The mother clutched at his sleeve, stumbling beside him. "Save him, Excellency. Please, he is all I have." Ibrahim steadied her with one hand. "You will ride with us. He is your son, and today he is mine too." They climbed into the lead vehicle. Ibrahim sat with the child on his lap, pressing his jacket firmly against the bleeding wound. The mother clung to her son's hand, sobbing but trying to believe in the calm strength of the man holding him. The convoy roared forward, sirens wailing, cutting through traffic. Drivers pulled aside, pedestrians pressed against walls, watching as the black vehicles sped by. Inside, Ibrahim leaned close to the boy's ear, his voice low and steady. "You are strong. You are a child of this land. You will live. Burkina Faso still needs you." The boy stirred faintly, a soft moan escaping his lips. The mother gasped, clutching tighter. "He hears you. He is still with us." Minutes stretched like hours as the convoy raced toward the hospital. Guards radioed ahead, their voices sharp and urgent. Emergency incoming. Prepare surgical ward. Child critical. Arrival in 5. At the hospital gates, doctors and nurses were already assembled, stretchers ready. Ibrahim himself carried the boy into the emergency ward, refusing to hand him over until he was certain the doctors were prepared. His voice, firm and commanding, rang through the sterile hallways. Save him. Whatever it takes. Do not let him go. The medical team rushed into action surrounding the child, whisking him into surgery. The mother followed, held back gently by a nurse. She turned back toward Ibrahim, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you, Excellency." Ibrahim placed a hand on her shoulder, his gaze steady. "Do not thank me yet. Thank the doctors when your son walks again. Pray for him. I will pray with you." He stepped back, his jacket soaked in blood, his face grim but calm. Outside, the crowd was already gathering people who had seen the convoy stop, who had followed it to the hospital, who now chanted his name as though the act they had witnessed was more powerful than any speech. Inside, Ibrahim stood by the mother, waiting, not as a president, not as a soldier, but as a man who had chosen to carry a child's life in his arms. And somewhere, in foreign offices far away, men in suits watched the footage. To them, this was not an act of compassion. This was danger. Because a leader who could touch hearts so deeply could not be controlled. One leaned forward, his voice sharp. "We must move faster. If he becomes more than a man, if he becomes a symbol, our influence here is finished." And so, even as the boy fought for his life inside the operating room, new plans were being drawn. Plans that would bring bullets and betrayal. The hospital's fluorescent lights flickered softly, casting a pale glow across the waiting hall. Mothers clutched their children, fathers murmured prayers, and soldiers lined the doors with rifles at the ready. Word had spread faster than fire. The captain himself had carried a bleeding boy into the hospital. By nightfall, hundreds had gathered outside. Some held candles, others sang hymns, their voices trembling with both fear and hope. They were not only waiting for a child, they were waiting for a sign that life, dignity, and compassion still had power in a land too often scarred by loss. Inside, Ibrahim sat with the boy's mother in a small corner of the hall. His green beret rested on his knee, his jacket long since soaked with blood. He had not left her side, not once, as the hours dragged on. Every time footsteps echoed from the surgery ward, she jolted, clutching his arm. But it was always another nurse passing by. "Why do you stay here, Excellency?" she asked through her tears. "You are the president. You have a country to lead. This is just my son." Ibrahim turned his gaze to her, his voice calm and steady. "He is not just your son. He is Burkina Faso's son. If I cannot stand for him, then I do not deserve to stand for anyone." Her tears deepened, but now they carried a flicker of gratitude. She bowed her head, unable to speak. Hours passed. Outside, the chants grew louder. "Traoré, Traoré," and "Burkina Faso does not kneel." The people who had first gathered in whispers now shouted their loyalty into the night sky. For them, this moment was no longer just about a child's accident. It was about a leader who walked with them, who bled with them, who waited beside them. But not everyone saw it that way. In the shadows beyond the hospital walls, eyes watched. Vehicles without license plates waited in alleyways. Men in dark clothes and foreign accents murmured into radios. They had been sent not to witness, but to silence. To them, the image of Ibrahim holding a child was more dangerous than 100 soldiers with guns. It was the kind of image that built legends, and legends were impossible to destroy. "Tonight," one of the men whispered in French, "we end this." Inside, the waiting room held its breath as the doors to the surgery ward finally opened. A doctor stepped out, his scrubs stained, his face weary. For a moment, no one dared ask, afraid of the answer. Then the doctor spoke. "The boy lives." A cry erupted from the mother, who fell to her knees in gratitude, from the crowd outside, whose cheers shook the walls, from soldiers who let out the breath they'd been holding. Hope spread like thunder, rolling across the land. Ibrahim stood, placing a hand over his chest, eyes closed in silent thanks. Then he helped the mother to her feet. "Go see your son. He waits for you." As she hurried inside, Ibrahim stepped toward the balcony overlooking the hospital courtyard. The crowd below saw him and roared in unison, their candles waving like stars in the night. He raised a hand and slowly, the chant softened to silence. "My people," he began, his voice strong but steady. "Tonight we saved a child, but in saving him we saved more than one life. We saved hope. We proved that no one, not the smallest, not the poorest, will be forgotten in Burkina Faso." The crowd erupted again, chanting his name, their voices echoing into the distance. But just as the chants peaked, a sharp crack split the night. A gunshot. The crowd froze. Soldiers shouted, scrambling for cover. A second shot rang out, striking the wall near the balcony where Ibrahim stood. "Snipers!" a guard roared. Panic rippled, but only for a moment. Ibrahim did not retreat. He stood tall on the balcony, scanning the rooftops. His voice thundered over the chaos. "You fire on me because you fear me, but understand this, you cannot kill a people's will with bullets." Soldiers returned fire, muzzle flashes sparking against the night. Citizens, instead of scattering, pressed closer to the gates, shouting defiantly, "Burkina Faso does not kneel!" The sound of their voices drowned out the crack of rifles. Within minutes, the attackers mercenaries hired and smuggled in were overwhelmed. Some fell, others fled, their mission collapsing under the sheer weight of resistance, both armed and unarmed. When the last shot faded, silence returned. Smoke hung in the air, mingling with the scent of fear and courage. Slowly, the chants rose again, louder than before, unstoppable. "Traoré! Traoré! Burkina Faso does not kneel." Ibrahim raised both hands, his jacket still stained with the boy's blood. "You see? They tried again tonight. They tried to silence us, to make us afraid, but we are still here. And as long as we are here, as long as a single child breathes in this land, we will never bow." The crowd erupted, their cheers carrying far beyond the hospital walls, carried by radios, phones, and whispers, until they reached the furthest villages of Burkina Faso. Inside the hospital, the boy opened his eyes. His mother held his hand, tears streaming down her face, whispering blessings for the man who had carried him from death's edge. And somewhere, far away in foreign halls of power, men in suits slammed their fists on polished tables. Every time we try to break him one spat, he grows stronger. Every bullet we fire turns into a story, a legend. He was right, for in the hearts of the people, the image had already taken root, the captain carrying a boy through the dust, blood on his hands and fire in his voice. It was no longer just an act of compassion, it was a promise. A promise that no matter how many attacks came, Burkina Faso would rise because its leader walked among them, carried their burdens, and never ever knelt.